Hi everybody, it's Kelly from Whitefall Homestead and Kelly G Arts, and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about something that I know my husband doesn't tend to enjoy talking about what he struggles with, and I don't know how much detail he's going to discuss with you guys. I know he had talked about at one point letting you guys know what his health issues were, and I'm not sure the likelihood of him feeling comfortable enough to open up that way. I know he struggles with that sometimes and it gives him anxiety. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's going on with him so that you have some better idea. He does have asthma, and he does mention that in one of the videos that you may or may not have seen yet. But one of the other problems that he has right now is seizures. And unfortunately, the doctors don't know what kind of seizures. They only know that they're not, I can't remember the word of it now. I don't know why I can't think of it. It's not triggered by lights. It's not, I can't remember it. But anyway, we know that his seizures can be triggered by pain, which unfortunately he has a lot of right now. And I guess it's just going to be a permanent thing. But he also has a trigger of stress that can cause his seizures. And unfortunately, when he has seizures, it's very easy for him to fall. And so he can be hurt easily because of it. When it first started, it was back in, I think it was 2014. I don't remember for certain. It's been going on for a little while. It's been more than 5 years for certain. But basically, when this all started, it was very much a surprise to us. It started with the pain, which we later found out after moving to Washington that it is dystonia. And he actually has severe dystonia, and it's from the top of his head down to the base of his neck. And we don't know why. We don't know what caused it, what made it happen. It just started one day. He woke up one morning and he was in such horrible pain that he couldn't move. He wasn't able to speak. I was sitting right next to him on the bed. We both woke up. I was sitting up, but I was faced away from him because he was on the other side of the bed, and I was faced towards the door, so I wasn't able to see what was going on with him. I didn't know what was happening. And so the best he could do was lift his phone and text me to tell me that something was wrong. I was able to get him into the car, and we took him to the ER, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was going on. They had no idea why he was having those struggles. But his pain was just horrid, and he couldn't, his neck locked up, and it constantly locks up now. It happens all the time. In fact, I don't know that it ever fully loosens. He's had massage therapy and physical therapy and all kinds of things to try and help it, and he takes several medications to try and help, and he still has a lot of pain above and beyond even the medications and what they can handle. So he struggles a lot with that. And of course, with medications, there's side effects, and with some of those, the side effects he's learning don't necessarily outweigh, or the side effects are starting to outweigh some of the benefits on some of them. So he's actually in the process of switching meds at the moment, dropping one of them, and I think he's adding another. I don't know. I don't remember. But he takes quite a few meds that he needs, that the doctor's prescribing for him to try and help with this. But we don't know what's going on with him. We got lucky that we even found out that he had the dystonia at all, because he's not showing the typical symptoms of it. From what we were told and what we understand, a lot of times there will be tightening of muscles all over the body, and for some reason for him, thankfully, it is restricted just to his base of his neck, his back, shoulders sometimes, and up to the top of his head. Anything lower is fine. It doesn't affect him down there, so they didn't think that it was dystonia at first. In fact, his primary care physician was the one that told him that they didn't think that it was dystonia. We managed to meet someone through, basically they were a friend of a friend that ended up being friends with us, and she worked with a doctor who is, I guess, in the forefront of the dealing with dystonia through Botox shots, trying to help it with that, and which he does have to do those now. He does Botox shots, and they do help. They definitely do help. He does it he goes and visits the doctor for the shots once every 3 months. And we definitely notice the difference when he's coming close to that time, or when he's past that time, that 3 months. It makes a big difference, and he has a lot more seizures, a lot more falls, a lot more pain, and just everything's a lot worse for him because of it. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked on that. A lot of times, from what we've been told, what we understand of dystonia, doctors will notice the symptoms more because they'll see your legs or arms clenched and held, stuck up against your body like this. A lot of times there's trembling, which he really only shows any sign of trembling in a post-ictal state, which if you don't understand what that means, that's the state after coming out of a seizure. So sometimes he'll have that behavior, and it's usually one of his hands, and he'll move kind of like that. And he can't control it. He can't stop it. It just takes time for it to wear off, I guess. But it's not something that happens every day, as far as the tremors. And because of the fact that he never has his arms, his legs clenched up, the doctors didn't think that he had dystonia. Or at least his primary care didn't think he did. But because of our friend working with this particular doctor, she was talking to him about some of the stuff that Chris had told her, and she talked, because she was telling him about this, telling her, the doctor she worked with, about it. He told her to let Chris know that he wanted to see him, because he thought that it was dystonia. And like I said, nobody had mentioned that before. We didn't know what it was or anything before that point. So nobody thought he had it. And he brought it up with his primary care, and they said they didn't think he had it, but they would give him the referral anyway. And he got the referral, and he went and saw this particular doctor, and turned out that yes, he does have it, and it's a severe case of it. It's just for some reason localized to the upper part of his body, shoulders and higher. So he gets the shots every 3 months to help alleviate some of that pain and discomfort that he deals with because of that. And from when everything started, because the dystonia was the first thing that showed up, the doctors in Idaho put him on a medication, I believe it was tramadol, that if you don't know about it, you should be aware it does lower the threshold for seizures. So if you are prone to having seizures, it will increase the frequency, increase the likelihood of you having them, and from what I understand, also make them worse. So if you have any issues or potential issues with seizures, you don't want to take that med. But it was after that he started having seizures, and so that's the only thing that we can attribute it to. And it started out subtle. His seizures are strange. You're not supposed to be able to bring someone out of a seizure. It's not supposed to be something that you can snap someone out of it or wake them up from it or whatever you want to call it. But with him you can. And it always has been that way. However, it's progressed to be worse and worse over the years. And it started out that you could just call his name and he would snap out of it. It was like he was spacing out, like daydreaming or something. But over time, and I don't know if it was weeks or months before it started to progress, but we started noticing that we would have to say his name louder in order to get him to respond or to come out of it. And it culminated at one point where he was driving before we realized that what he was dealing with was seizures. And he had one of these episodes with his daughter in the car, and she called his name a couple of times and called his name louder, and then she yelled his name because he was about to rear end a vehicle in front of him. And now he managed to avoid the accident because when he snapped out of it, he saw where he was and what was happening and was able to react quickly enough to move off and into the side space. It was a little dirt area off the side of the road, so he was able to move off and stop the car. But that was the last time he ever drove, and it was something that we both recognized was a problem. So and after that it just got worse. It got to the point where even yelling his name would not pull him out of it. You had to touch him. And then touching him wasn't enough, and you had to tap him. And then tapping him wasn't enough, and it's gotten to the point where if we want to pull him out of it, we have to be a little more forceful with him and slap his arm, his wrist, his something. We don't want to hit anything above because of the dystonia. We don't want to hurt him. We don't want to hurt him at all. But we definitely don't want to cause any damage or any pain in the area of his dystonia or around his neck or anything. So we have to pat his arm, leg, wrist, hand, something like that. Sometimes lifting and shaking his hand or arm will do it. The kids have learned how to help pull him out of these seizures too. And even our dog has become a seizure dog just because she's been paying enough attention and she's learned when we say the word seizure that it means he's having a seizure, and she recognizes it, and now she's actually learned to watch for those symptoms. And so she will actually jump up off her bed and run over to him and start nudging his arm and pushing on him or licking him and trying to get him to wake up. And she usually manages to lift his arm up and get him to come out of it. But anyway, that's one of the things that has caused him to be unable to work anymore. And because the seizures, if it was just the dystonia, he would still be working. He never would have quit his job. It wouldn't have been anything else, but the seizures have made it so that he can't work. And any job that you might think of that he could possibly do, he can't do. because there has to be someone watching him. We actually ended up with a doctor's note, order from the doctor saying that he must be monitored by an adult 24/7. So there's no way that any employer is going to hire him, especially if they have to have someone be a babysitter to watch him to make sure that he doesn't have a seizure and fall down and get hurt or anything like that. So there's just no way that he could work. Anything like textbooks will strain his mental processes, and that can trigger a seizure. There's a lot of things that he used to be able to do that he can't now because the seizures make it very difficult for him to do. He also has asthma, and right now because of COVID, it makes it extremely dangerous for him. His doctor told him that he has, that he's extremely high risk, and if he catches it, there's a high likelihood that he wouldn't survive it. And whether you believe in COVID or not, we listen to our doctors, and that's what they said, so that's what we're going with. I don't want to risk his life, and my kids don't want to lose their father, so we are taking the precautions that we need to keep him safe and, following the mandates and everything. So you may hear us mention that, or you might even see us with masks on when we're doing some of our videos. Now, when we're at home, we don't do that. And we do a much more stringent decontamination process for everything and everyone that comes into this house, no matter what, just to try and make sure that we are doing our best to protect him. And much more stringent than I think anybody really considers. We use sanitizer, and there's constant hand washing in our household, and I don't really want to go into all of the details of our processes, but basically, anybody that might visit, although at this point we've gotten to where we just don't accept anyone visiting, even family right now. But anyone that might potentially visit would have to be wearing a mask, would have to use sanitizer, would have to keep, 6 to 10 foot distance, everything from everybody in the household to keep everyone safe, and all the rest of us have to wear masks while that person is around as well. And then when they leave, there's more decontamination processes that we go through. But again, I don't want to go through all the details of that at the moment. If it's something that you want to learn about, I can probably do a video for that at some other time. But right now, I don't want to mess with it. I'm trying to think of what else. So he had knee surgery when we first moved into this house, because before he had the seizures, had an incident that snapped one of his ligaments in his right knee, and after that, one of his seizures, he had a fall where I wasn't near him, but I saw it happen, and he crumpled and twisted. As he was falling, he twisted, and it snapped a second ligament in the same knee. So he ended up having a surgery to replace, I think it was replacements on both, but there might have been one repaired and one replaced, but I think it was replacements on both, to try and make it so that he could use his knee again, and went through physical therapy and everything. And then I don't know how long it was after that, but after they had started to reform and be rebuilt, he had another fall, or another incident with a seizure where one of the ligaments got re-snapped again. So he's currently and permanently having to use a knee brace, leg brace, knee brace thing that he has to wear all the time to prevent any further damage from happening to that knee. They opted not to do a surgery to repair that ligament and just decided to go with because of his seizures and things and fall risk, decided to just go ahead and go with the brace instead. So that also limits his functionality and ability to do things, and lifting things can cause strain, which can cause pain for him, which can cause the seizures, and which can cause falls. And so a lot of the heavy lifting and harder tasks of bending over can be difficult for him. Things like that make it so that it's very hard for him to do most tasks. So a lot of the building and digging and things like that we're planning on doing with the homestead are going to be mostly me and the children doing those things. He's going to help as much as he can. He hates to not work. He wants to be able to work, but he can't. And so he's having to learn to live within the limitations of what he's able to do and work with that. And he doesn't like it. He does not enjoy the fact that he can't work like he used to. He absolutely loved his job, and he did not want to leave it. But it became quite clear that when it was, when the seizures were happening, that it was not safe for him to continue working, so he had to leave. So he does struggle a lot with the fact that he has these basically debilitating struggles, and he will probably talk about it at some point, but I don't know, like I said, I don't know how much detail he'll go into, and I know that it's difficult for him. He does want you guys to know about it, but he also doesn't want to be the one to say things because he struggles with it. He doesn't like to admit that he can't do something. But that's how he's always been. I'm trying to think of what else I might need to say. I don't think there's anything else to say about it really at the moment. And I'm sure that's plenty of information for you guys to know. But basically, if you ever wonder why he's not doing work to help out with the homestead, and why he's not the one doing the building, or why he's not the one doing, heavy lifting or anything like that, now you know why. And hopefully you'll understand that.